Pika always.
Yeah, always.
I'm,
There is
I'm,
no
I'm not really
scenario.
100% convinced about that because, of course, the one point that you're making, and it's completely correct, is that the positioning is better because I have to kill two neutrals to get towards Australia. However, on the flip side, it's far more likely for me to finish Antarctica than for you to finish Australia. So if at any point we split, I have Antarctica and you have Australia, I can goad you into countering Antarctica blindly, in some strategies, of course. So uh, I'm not 100% convinced. I'm not really that focused on that first pick in Antarctica because I don't think it's that bad, because with those picks you can expand in if you get your first two, right? I think I would definitely pick differently, but for other reasons. But if you get your first two, I think you have a decent position. What I really don't like is pick number three, because if you really want to pick in Russia, just pick West Russia. I really don't see why would you pick Central Russia over West Russia. And then if you really want to some sort of a counter, I don't know. Really, the third pick, it really strikes me as a major problem in my opinion.
Yeah. Let's see what Piggy has
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
picked. And yeah, I think it's a very good way to pick this, the Boston triple picks with Africa counter. What do you think?
Mm, yeah, I'm one. Yeah, but again, 1, 2, and 3 like this. Yeah, so now I'm thinking whether my initial suggestion I can modify it by maybe getting one in West Africa. Maybe I want to modify it a little bit. But let's look at those picks. Yeah, those are very interesting. But again, I think if you just get your first three picks, you will lose, right? So basically, that is some sort of a risk because. Yeah, I really don't think that. Can you win at all?
No, because you
Yeah, I don't
cannot
think you
get
can.
more than 17 income, I
Yeah,
think.
that wasteland in Tibet really makes it a very easy game. Uh, yeah, even attacking into Africa is terrible because you will have to.
Two
There will be small
wasteland.
wastelands of four. There's a wasteland in Botswana. There's wasteland in Brazil. There's wasteland in Tibet. So probably the biggest threat is getting your first free picks. The biggest threat for you is getting your first free picks, and I honestly don't like strategies where if you get your first free picks, you probably lose, because you should expect at least some percent of the time that your opponent will just go for another strategy. But there are many advantages. Of course, I really like the order in which he made those picks. Maybe I would pick number 5 in East Africa. I really don't see. I don't see. Uh, uh, I don't see the advantage of getting North Africa as a counter instead
Well,
of East Africa.
maybe you think Summer could try Australia combo and it would take 2, 4, and 5.
Oh, okay, so that's actually a very good point. Okay,
And
but that's very, yeah, that's very decent. Also now that I think about it, that wasteland in Sudan and Botswana, if you expand in Australia early and you need troops on the second turn, and you cannot attack directly into Congo, for example, you can be your Kenya pick may be useless. So maybe the North Africa counter is better. Uh, Yeah, basically it's very good if you get your 1 and 2. It's very good if you get your 1 and 3. Probably the biggest threat is if you get your first 3 picks, right?
yeah.
Or
Also,
if
I
you get
think
if you
if you lose your first pick and you get Antarctica and Indonesia, I think it's not that good.
I actually disagree because that's one thing that's very counterintuitive. But in this particular position, I think that if you lose your first pick and get your picks 2 and 3, it's not completely terrible because of what I said before about Antarctica and Australia. Uh, unless of course your opponent picks exactly the same picks and he knows that you are in Indonesia. But if you lose your first pick, but your opponent does not know that you are in Indonesia, you can just expand in Indonesia and expand in whatever West Africa or whatever you get, and
it's true.
goad your opponent into countering Antarctica heavy. So yeah, now that I think about it. I don't think it will be the end of the world, but there are two major problems. You probably auto lose against any South Africa hard counter, but it's like this in WarLight. You always lose to hard counters. And the bigger threat, in my opinion, is that you just lose if you get your first 3 picks. Because if you get your first 3 picks, then your opponent, you know that your opponent has West Africa and has 2 picks around West Russia. There's maybe a very remote possibility of a China counter, but still you likely lose in that scenario. So I think a viable strategy, definitely. But returning to what I suggested, now that you mentioned that before, that countering Africa may be a good idea with that Boston triple, but what I'm thinking now is that maybe I can go one in Africa, 2 in West Russia, 3 in Indonesia, 4 in Central Russia, 5 in Southeast Asia. Just to make it a little bit different, because I will always I think I will have the exact same scenario. Well, no, because if not always, because I can sometimes split. Yeah, I think that's a very important difference, because if I go 1 in West Africa and 2 in West Russia, I will have the same outcome against strategies that go 1-2 in Russia, because if you go 1-2 in Russia, you have your first pick in West Russia always. Well, you should at the very least. So if I go 1 West Africa, 2 West Russia and 3 Indonesia, 4 Central Russia and 5 Southeast Asia, I will have the same outcome against the strategies that include West Russia and Central Russia as your first 2 picks. However, if I move Indonesia to my 3rd pick, then 50% of the time I will get Indonesia, and 50% of the time I will get Intel on Indonesia. Wait, will I get Intel on Indonesia? Yeah, I will get Intel on Indonesia. So, now I'm really wondering, maybe one of those 2 strategies are also viable. But then I will get Southeast Asia, so maybe, yeah, that's really getting complicated.
Yeah.
Huh.
A lot.
Yeah, it would be nice if I could demonstrate visually what I would pick, but I was thinking really one West Africa. No, I think I will still go with those original picks. But now that I'm really analyzing it, if I go with my original picks, I have to start expanding in West Africa first. So there's that might be a problem. That's a really interesting board. Or I can just go full yellow. I can go just 1 West Africa and 2 and 3 in West Russia and Central Russia, and then for Indonesia, and 5 something. Or sorry, 4 Southeast Asia, 5 Indonesia.
I was thinking about to go 1 Indonesia, 2 and 3 Russia, 4 Australia and 5 Antarctica. What do you think?
Where would you expand first if you get
If I get
Indonesia and Australia?
Australia.
You expand first in Australia, but
Yeah.
but you don't have any intel on Antarctica.
Well, I will just assume that he has Antarctica, and after I get 10 income, I will attack Scott full fist move.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is that you expect that he will not finish Antarctica in 2 turns?
Yeah, I think not. And if he will, I think with good prediction and good play, I think I can defend 10 income versus 8 income, because I think I may be able to defend. What do you think?
Okay, so that was wait, 1 Indonesia, 2 Australia.
1 Indonesia, 2 Australia, and 3 and 4 Russia, or
And
2
5,
and 3 Russia,
where's your
but
fifth pick?
Antarctica.
Fifth, okay, so 1 Indonesia, 2 Australia, 3 and 4 in Russia, and 5 in Antarctica.
Or 2 and 3 Russia, but I think it's the same, because I don't think I will get both Russia.
Yeah, I definitely know what you're saying here. Yeah, because now I'm wondering.
I think the only way I will lose Australia versus Antarctica strategy is if you deploy every armies you have into Antarctica and attack Scott with like 7 armies, and you have a better stack than me.
Yeah, I'm trying to think to what you can lose here. Okay. So first, well, you lose to any 1-2 in Russia, right? So I think that your suggestion with 1 Indonesia and 2-3 in Russia might be a little bit better.
Yeah.
So maybe 1 Indonesia, 2-3 in Russia, and then 4 Australia, 5 Antarctica.
However, I really think 1 in Indonesia it's a must in this scenario, because I think it's the case.
No, it's not. But we've discussed so many strategies with 1 in West Africa. Then that maybe countering that West Africa is also a really viable strategy. So your suggestion makes a great deal of sense, because I don't think there are that many strategies that would include you getting Australia and your opponent getting Antarctica, where he is in a position to get Antarctica on the second turn. Because most likely what will happen is he will move towards South Pole, but he will expand elsewhere on the first turn. Because he likely knows you are in Australia.
Yeah, but in the third turn I will get Scott then.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm thinking it might be a very strong strategy. So that's why I'm analyzing this right now. Wow, there are really so many options here.
Yeah.
Because most likely you will. Okay, so we will get your most likely 1-3 or 1-4, or 1-3-4.
Yeah, I think the most likely scenario is getting one of the Russia and the Australia combo, because I think it's what I would get.
Where would be your pick number 6? It would be West Africa, right?
Actually, I could get South Africa as a 6, because if I lose my 4 and 5, I think my opponent will try Antarctica for sure, and it's a good counter, don't you think?
Yeah, it definitely is, but there are some scenarios where you can get, I think, 1, 2, and 6, right? So I wouldn't want that.
I don't think you can take 1 2 and 6.
You can definitely, you can get 1 2 and 6.